already. Hello. Developed and developing in the global partnership. Fisheries and aquaculture offer, out of 17, we have the 5 targeted the goals where reduce hunger and improve nutrition, alleviate poverty, generate economic growth, improve life below water, and ensure better use of natural resources. But through this sustainable development goals, we can address several issues which will be helping the global problems. Now, these are the 17 sustainable development goals. It's already, as far as the to ensure the sustainability, especially in the fisheries sector, the code of conduct was adopted in 1995 by FAO for especially to ensure that at least the nutritional, economic, social, environmental, and cultural importance of fisheries and the interest of all those concerned with the fisheries sectors are ensured, and the states and the users of living aquatic resources should conserve aquatic ecosystem. So these are some of the conducts, but then code of conduct which has to be followed in principle. But then the major problem is lying that is the lot of awareness, and in the different languages it has to be translated. And then, although we have come to the Silver Jubilee celebration, more than that, now the time has come. So it has to be ensured that effective conservation and management of the living aquatic resources are ensured through following the code of conduct by responsible fisheries. When we look at the aquaculture overall situation, the total the global production of the fisheries is 179 billion metric ton, out of which aquaculture contributes to 82.1 million metric ton, which is of course from 2008 to 2017. We look at that there is a tremendous growth in aquaculture, which is more than 25%, whereas as far as in the capture fisheries, it has been only 75%. So when, as compared to the capture fisheries, the aquaculture growth has been tremendous, and the contribution from the aquaculture is becoming more than 50% in future, which is expected. And in the future also, as far as the demand from the fishery sector is expected, which will come from only aquaculture. But when look at the national scenario, India is of course the second largest producer of the fish in the world, and about 68% of India's fish comes from aquaculture sector. In 2019-20, if you look at the figures, out of 14.164 million tons, the marine sector is contributing to 3.7 million metric ton, and the inland sector is contributing 10.43 million metric ton. As far as the fish seed production is concerned, which is the basis for the aquaculture growth, which is around 52,000 crores of fry against the total demand of more than 60,000 crores. So there is a deficiency in the seed production, so which has to be looked into. And as far as the fish sale is concerned, more than 91% is marketed fresh. And the export commodity, because especially the shrimps, which from the India we are exporting, and the major share is coming from the 3 major species, which is monodon, Phenomai, and Macrovacuum, and this contributed to the tune of more than 46,000 crores, which is quite significant. And yes, aquaculture, and let's have a look on how the climate change is impacting. Of course, the capture fisheries, there are some negative impact, but in aquaculture, we are experiencing some positive impact as well as of the climate change. Climate change is when we look at, is now considered a risk to global food production and a major threat to the quality and quantity of production, food security, particularly access to dietary protein, which is most important, because when we talk about the malnutrition, the protein has to be taken into consideration, is increasingly being threatened by the predicted effects of climate change. Then the several projections show that the entire aquaculture value chain is vulnerable to the effects of climate change. But then it all depends on the the different locations. The total technical potential of carbon sequestration is about 0.79 million hectare of aquaculture points in the, which is about 0.9 teragram carbon per year. Now, another thing is there are direct and some indirect effect of climate change on aquaculture. One direct effect is the physical and physiology of finfish and shellfish stocks and production system, because the temperature is the most important parameter which affects the growth of fish. So with the increase of the temperature, the fish comes under stress, which affects the physical and the physiological status of the fish and shellfishes. The indirect effect of the climate change is on altering the primary and secondary productivity in the water, the structure of the ecosystem, and input supplies. The input supplies are also very much affected, because when we look at the input for the feed, especially because feed is comprising the most important component as far as aquaculture is concerned, where the 60% cost comes is towards the fish feed. Now, when we are manufacturing the feed, the main ingredient is fish meal and fish oil, which is becoming expensive. And there is a lot of competition between the other players, especially from the veterinary sector. But on the other hand is the requirement, it is the availability of the fish meal is becoming less, because the catch from the capture fisheries is reducing, and then that is affecting even the cost, and indirectly also this is again affecting the aquaculture production and becoming a major threat for the future. Now, the rising temperature, which has been predicted 1.5 degrees Celsius, which will definitely increase the mortality, and the most of the fishes are under threat. Especially the species which are on the Arctic, or especially this extreme southern areas where you have the problems of the ice melting, and the colder areas where again these species are under threat. So, and the intertidal shellfishes, due to thermal stress, is also getting affected. The warmer periods may promote longer growing season. That is the another one positive part of the temperature rise, which will be there, whereas the breeding season would be prolonged, and even the maturity will be advanced. And it is expected that the production would also be in the, especially the warmer water species will be able to grow on for the longer duration, and also in the regions of the colder area where the temperature is rising. So these warmer species can also be produced in those areas. So with that, probably the aquaculture production of especially the warmer species are expected to rise. Besides, the warmer periods may provide the opportunity to culture new species, new candidate species in those areas, because when they especially, and then also the improvement of the genetic improvement of the especially different species are expected, and definitely the total aquaculture, which will contribute to the aquaculture production, especially in those areas. Now, ocean acidification is another issue, because where the rising in temperature, and especially the pH level is reducing and going down, and which is also especially creating problem for the microalgae and macroalgae, and especially the more of especially those species which are found in the lower regions of the the system, especially corals are getting affected. And but on the other hand, then some of the species which have got otoliths are especially in the marine species, makes them susceptible to the ocean's acidification, and their growth and development may particularly be affected. But it has to be seen that how these things are even damaging the tissues and impairing the respiration. Now, the another threat which is probably is the main diseases and the harmful algal blooms in the aquaculture ponds, and especially when the open water bodies also. The culture species, when they are exposed to the thermal stress conditions, become more susceptible to diseases, and their warmer conditions may result in the establishment of exotic species, the diseases. This is what has been experienced, especially in case of Venami, especially the shrimp farming, which is the major contributing towards the aquaculture, especially the export also. So that has been affected by the diseases. So the rising temperature is also likely to accelerate the application rate, virulence, life cycle longevity, and transmission of pathogens among several finfish and shellfish species. That is a major problem now we are experiencing, because it is coming from the exotic species, and that is creating a threat for the indigenous flora as well. Recently, an unprecedented loss of fish was recorded worldwide, was reported in Chilean aquaculture, which is a really a threatening call for the aquaculturists, that how to overcome this problem. Now, again, we have also experienced, when we look at the changes in the rainfall pattern, the risks include losing fish from ponds during the floods, because that is again the invasion of ponds by unwanted species that is being experienced, and the ponds get damaged, resulting from infilling and washing away of walls, so that sometimes the entire stock is washed off, and the problem of the total losses occurring. However, it should be noted that the heavier rainfall may increase the area suitable for aquaculture ponds, which because of the water harvesting strategies, whereas we may have some of the new areas which would be developed where the fishes, especially the seed can be stocked, and then those areas can be considered for growing the different species in different regions. Now, uncertainty of external input supplies has become a major threat. Of course, because the capture fisheries is declining, and then especially the input for the fish meal and the oil also is becoming a problem. So, for which now we are looking for an alternate, sources for the protein. Now, for that, the cereal and soybean production to aquaculture production feed, that is what is now we are going for the soy replacement of fish meal by soya and other cereals for the substituting the protein. So that way, it is helping people to work on those species. But the problem is, again, there is a major stress on the agricultural production, and then the supply of these inputs is also to ensure the sustainability for the future is also becoming a threat. It's a major threat now for the future. The ineffective management of fisheries and rising fish meal prices are already a significant threat to aquaculture production sustainability, because now everybody is now worried, and now we want to sustain our production system for the future. Now, when we look, so for that, we have to have some strategies we have to adapt. So the strategies to reduce, especially the carbon footprint from aquaculture, maybe by reducing the nitrous oxide, reducing the nitrogen surplus. So these all the management practices we have to adopt by different means. So by adopting the best management practices in aquaculture, the different ways like reducing emissions from feed material, because that is the main contributing to the carbon footprint. So reducing feed meal energy use emissions, and improving efficiency of feed management and feed conversion, and improving the fish health. These are the important things by which is possible through the management strategies. Now, the fuel, the use and feed are the most dominant factors, as I said, in the greenhouse gases through aquaculture, and even the generator use, because when we are going for the high stocking and intensification of aquaculture, so to maintain the oxygen level in the pond, we have to use the generator sometimes for the aeration and the temperature regulation. For temperature regulation and water circulation, the aerators are used in the pond, and the feed manufacturing process are major sources of carbon dioxide. So these are the major areas where we need to adopt some of these strategies that, and which can be otherwise adopted by following the different approaches which can lead to a sustainable aquaculture in future. One is the implementation of an ecosystem approach to aquaculture, enhancement of mariculture and non-fed aquaculture, using large open water bodies for culture-based fisheries, use of inland saline groundwater. Now, when we look at the ecosystem approach to aquaculture, where the fishes are grown, and especially the open water bodies, where the stocking is done, and this is all just to guided by the 3 strategic principles, wherein the aquaculture development and management should take account of full range of ecosystem functions and services. So all these strategies are to be adopted in such a way so that there is no threat for the future. Aquaculture should improve the human well-being and equity for all relevant stakeholders. Aquaculture should be developed in the context of other sectors like policies and rules as appropriate, and prioritization and enhancement of mariculture. Now, we have the coastline of more than 8,000 kilometers, and with the exclusive economic zone, which has a vast potential, which is where the additional aquaculture production can come in, where as far as the projected mariculture production based on area available in Indian region is 4 to 8 million tons, whereas the current mariculture production is less than 0.01. So a lot of effort has to be done, but under the National Mariculture Policy 2019, there are a lot of schemes, a lot of avenues which has been generated, where already the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, they have started working on this, and especially the cage aquaculture is taking a very fast development, and where the additional aquaculture production is expected from the open water bodies through mariculture. Now, non-fed aquaculture, as I mentioned, that now the problem would be for the feed ingredients, especially the fish meal and the other ingredients, which is becoming more competitive and very costly. So the species we have to address now in future is which are totally non-fed. That means we don't require the feed, without feed even, or the species which can grow based on the natural productivity or the natural feed or the live feed which is available in the ecosystem. So the carbs, herbivorous species, bivalves are the major the species which are the new frontiers for the green aquaculture. Seaweed farming has a huge potential in the coastal states, so that has to be done, which already the people have started working on it. And then especially another concept, which is the integrated multi-tropic aquaculture, where the cage aquaculture along with the organic and inorganic extractive species are cultured, which will help in improving the ecosystem. Especially otherwise, most of the cages where there is intensification of cage aquaculture, the problem of especially the water quality is becoming a major issue. So just to take care of the natural water resources through the extractive organic and inorganic extractive species helps in improving, and overall the production is also enhanced. So this is the concept of integrated multi-tropic aquaculture, where the fed aquaculture, fin fishes in the cages, and then you have the organic and inorganic extractive species, which helps in improving the total ecosystem. Culture-based fisheries in large water bodies, where the fishes are stocked in the enclosures, or even the artificial stocking is done in the open water bodies, and where the seed or they are allowed to grow in the open waters, which is protected by the artificial reefs. So that helps in improving the production of the inshore waters or open water bodies, where if you can see that how the Central Institute of Fisheries Research Institute, where they have enhanced the production from 1.5 kg per fish per day to 3.3 kg. That means there is a possibility of doubling the production as well as doubling the farmers' income. This is what we are looking for, and everybody is talking about how to. So this is another area where even in the northern states, the problem of these salt affected areas, and underground water has become saline, which is a very large area, more than 8.62 hectare of the area in India, and especially the Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, and Western UP. The underground water has become saline, and the salinity is varying from place to place. The salinity is horizontally as well as vertically. There is a difference. Even being in the arid and semi-arid regions, the problem is of a very different scale, and there is no crops can be grown. Now the problem, so there we had taken a challenge how to use the wasteland by growing the fish and especially adopting the aquaculture practices for especially the shrimps as well in those areas. Although there are extreme weather conditions as compared to the coastal states, so the underground water has been now found suitable for growing fish and prawns, and even to the tune of where the shrimp can be grown 10 tons per hectare per crop of 120 days, which is becoming quite profitable. And this is how something which is wealth from the waste. There were a lot of area in those productive states, Haryana and Punjab, which has become unfit or unfit for agriculture. Now we have started using those areas, and already more than 1,500 acre of the land area and more than 300 farmers, they have converted their this wasteland for the aquaculture purpose, and to the tune of more than 200 crores of wealth has been generated during the past few years, and which is further increasing. Now the major concern is the drawing of high saline water, which might tomorrow become an environmental issue. And besides that, the major problem is nowadays the temperature, which is rising in those areas. So, and then shrimp is very, very susceptible to the high temperature, and sometimes we experience the mass mortality. So that is the situation we are facing, and then we are trying to manipulate the water quality, the most important thing, and then the by manipulating the water temperature also to some extent is helping us to overcome this problem. So thank you very much. Anyhow, we have several other issues which we have to tackle through the various management strategies and maintaining the water quality especially, and so those things will be helpful in adopting the the better strategies for the future to tackle the climate change, of course. Thank you very much.